Breaking news coming in from India, where an intrusion by Chinese troops led to clashes between troops of both the countries. Indian Army foiled the attempt, which happened 3 days back. Indian and Chinese troops clashed at Nakula and Sikkim last week after China's PLA tried to intrude. Injuries have been reported on both the sides. The latest clash at Nakula comes even as Indian and Chinese troops are already engaged in a border standoff in eastern Ladakh. The clash comes amidst the 9th round of military talks between India and China, which lasted nearly for 16 hours. The 9th round of India-China talks got over at around 2:30 a.m. The two sides have already held 9 rounds of talks on various levels, but the negotiations remain inconclusive. Border tensions started simmering between the two neighbors in May 2020. Both sides had deployed thousands of troops along the line of actual control since then, especially along 3 friction points in eastern Ladakh region. And now the Indian Army has given out their statement. It reads as follows. We have received several queries regarding a face-off between Indian Army and PLA troops in the Sikkim sector. It is clarified that there was a minor face-off at Nakula area of North Sikkim on 20th January 2021, and the same was resolved by local commanders as per established protocols. Let's just go across to our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibal. Siddhant, thank you for joining us. How do you assess this statement that has just come out?
First, it's a confirmation that there was an incident that took place in Nakula, in Sikkim, which of course the Indian Army has described as minor. Secondly, it looks like it is part of the usual minor scuffles that take place, and these are resolved as per the normal agreements. Because remember, there have been instances, as we have been talking since the news broke, there have been previous instances of such scuffles taking place in the eastern sector, in the middle sector, in the western sector, but they have been resolved through hotlines. Usually the protocol is that usually both sides discuss through hotline if there is a misunderstanding, and it is resolved. The incident happened on 20th of this month. That of course was Wednesday, and largely it looks like that was resolved amicably. But of course it is coming at a time when we know that there is a new president in Washington. We know that how the Chinese have been trying to increasingly intrude into the airspace of Taiwan, and of course the conversations that have been taking place between India and China. In fact, the talks concluded, the military round of talks concluded just earlier in the day at 2:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time, lasting for approximately 15 to 16 hours. But by and large, the big worry is an increasingly aggressive China, China that perhaps is trying to change the regional and the global order unilaterally. And of course, once bitten, twice shy, as they say. New Delhi and of course Beijing, after the Galwan incident, the relationship has gone southwards. We know the Galwan incident is one such incident that will be remembered for a pretty long time, because India lost 20 of its soldiers. The Chinese also suffered casualties but have been mum.
Yes, and I'm just quoting here, just for more clarity on this, Siddhant. It is clarified that there was a minor face-off at Nakula area of North Sikkim on 20th January, and the same was resolved by local commanders as per the established protocols. What can you tell us about that?
Well, the established protocols are the hotlines which are present at the line of actual control, the international border. In fact, with Pakistan also, we have a hotline, and we do regularly use that hotline to talk about a situation on the ground. If any Pakistani or Indian has inadvertently crossed into the other side, and these issues are resolved through these hotlines. And we have a similar hotline with the Chinese as well. In fact, when the Galwan incident happened, one of the first thing was to use these hotlines to resolve the issue. Immediately after the Galwan incident, we know that Chinese under their custody had 10 Indian soldiers, and this hotline was used to further the conversation, and then there were rounds and rounds of conversation leading to the diffusion of the situation on the ground. So these hotlines are regularly used, and by and large I would see this as a positive development in terms of the situation not escalating, and both sides sides having the maturity enough to make sure that the situation is resolved and downplayed. In fact, the statement by the Indian Army is conciliatory in its entire intent in terms of course, telling the media as well to not to overhype the incident. And this is, of course, important coming from the South Bloc, because South Bloc is currently engaged in conversation with the Chinese. The 9th round has just got over. We know that usually during these conversations, proposals are given by the Indian side, by the Chinese side, and we know that the Indian side reiterated its proposal that there should be an early disengagement by the Chinese in the north bank of Pangong Lake, something that New Delhi has been reiterating all throughout last year.
All right, Siddhant, just stay with us. Let's just for now go across for more on this, we're being joined by Vishnu Prakash, former ambassador and former Consul General to Shanghai from Gurgaon. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. How do you assess these recent clashes?
Well, there is no surprise there because China will constantly probe India, test India's defenses, and that is what they have done. I would like to compliment our forces that they were ready and they not only repelled the attack, but also made sure that the Chinese soldiers get a taste of their own medicine. But Chinese intentions are anything but benign, and they will continue this. I have no doubt about it.
Yes, sir, and I'm just going to read out the statement by the Indian Army once again. They said that they have received several queries regarding the face-off, and it has been clarified that there was a minor face-off at Nakula area, north of North Sikkim on January 20th, and these were resolved by established protocols. How do you assess this?
There is the very fact that the clash took place in Nakula is something that is significant, cannot be ignored. Yet it is the practice of both sides not to play up the situation, because that is not going to help help anything. But the bottom line remains that we have large number of troops which are stationed on both sides. Chinese build-up continues, Chinese demands continue, and they will engage in misadventures.
Yes.
Because the way they have gone about it since May, it's very clear that they have some mischief in mind. But they have been surprised at not only India's resistance, but in India's ability to surprise them. And now they are lying in wait, and they will continue to engage in misadventures. Our soldiers have shown that they will stay put. They will stay put as long as it is required, and they are prepared for every eventuality. And that is the strength of the Indian Army.
Yes, Ambassador Vishnu, as we mentioned earlier, reports of this clash comes at a time when the two sides have already had 9 rounds of talks. Why do you think they still remain inconclusive?
For the simple reason that the agenda is different. They have always engaged in salami slicing. They have been trying to nibble away at Indian territory. And we do not covet their territory, but we are determined to hold on to what is ours. And we have asked for a complete rollback, restoration of status quo ante, which they do not want to do because their practice has always been 2 steps forward and 1 step backwards. And that is not acceptable to India. So that there is a basic disconnect there's a basic divergence in the approach of both the sides. And they have been quite surprised and by what they have encountered. They thought it will be an easy thing to do, like they have been doing in South China Sea. But Indian Army is a different thing altogether, different force altogether, and therefore they are biding their time. For them, it's a loss of face.
Yes.
If they were to accept India's demand, and their demand is very justifiable, because they were out to kind of teach India a lesson or convey a message. And now that they are not being able to do so, they are in a quandary, and for them it's very difficult to pull back.
Yes, and I know you just mentioned this, but just for more clarity on this, at a time when India has asked for complete disengagement, what can you tell us about China's agenda and what does it stand to gain at this point?
Well, their agenda is very simple. The medium to long-term agenda is to create a China-centric regional order where not the rule of law, but the rule of power obtains. And they believe that they are the hegemon in the region and they want to have India at a subordinate position. So that is the medium to long-term plan. But the immediate plan was they believed that India is vulnerable for a variety of reasons, the COVID, economic situation, etc., and thought that this is the time to needle India, to embarrass India. On the contrary, they have been embarrassed because they have been flaunting their military muscles, and here they have not been able to make headway. So that is their plans. Their plans have been thwarted so far, but we have to maintain eternal vigil because this is a power which is mischievous and unpredictable.
All right, Ambassador Vishnu, thank you so much for joining us with all those details. We will continue to track this very closely. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.